Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist here at Fonson Porter. In this Quilting Quickly tutorial, I'm going to show you how to put together the blocks in the quilt called Too Charming. If you'd like to purchase this pattern, please visit our website. Okay, you can see behind me, these are blocks that kind of float in really great gems, and we're using a pre-cut set of 5-inch squares. And in this set we have 2 that are matching of each fabric. So we're going to be working with all kinds of fun colors, and this is the technique or the block that we're trying to create, kind of isolated out. It doesn't quite look like that because there's more white in the background to help these float, and they're put what we call on point. So in order to create this, remember I said we're going to use 2 of each print, so the centerpiece you have done, it's a 5-inch square. Now, in order to create these floating triangles on the outer edge, we're going to take that 5-inch square and we're going to find a ruler here that we can cut against, and we're going to cut it diagonally in both directions. It's a little bit different technique, and then we're going to be able to create those side units to fill in. So just bear with me, it's a little bit different technique than we've shown before, but it's kind of fun. Lets you be a little bit inventive. So these then are the triangles that are floating out here. Kind of looks like a floating box or a present. Now we need to create the white pieces that go here. And if you look really closely, the top and the bottom have longer pieces off the sides. And these on each side of the center square are smaller. Look more like a flying goose unit, but they're not quite. They're close. But in order to get the math to work with this, what we're going to be doing is from a strip, we're going to cut 2 different sizes. And I've given myself a cheat sheet here. And we're going to cut rectangles that are 3 1/8. Now if you're working with a print fabric, since I'm working with a solid, there's no real right or wrong side of the fabric, but if you're working with a print or a subtle design that's just on one side of the fabric, leave your fabric folded in half, because that will create mirror image, in this case an image and its reverse, because you're going to need both sides. So bear with me, here we go. 3 1/8 is what we need for our first piece. And so I'm cutting near the selvage, so I'm going to overcut my piece, make it a little bigger than that. I'm going to cut my 3 1/8 inch unit, and a 3 1/8 is a little different than we normally cut. That 3 1/8 is the size I need. And then we're also going to be cutting 4 7/8. So highlight those fractions in your pattern so that you make sure that you're working with the right size. So those are the sides pieces. Now we need to create an angle, and I have some already cut, but I want to show you what we're going after. So from these we're going to try to get to, I'm going to turn it so it would be my cutting direction here. I'll lay it like this, one like this. I need to take away this corner of the rectangles. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using a square ruler with the 45-degree line marked on here, and what I need to do is take away that corner of the rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in thinking about, I want to take away this piece right here. I'm going to rotate this so that I'm cutting at a safe angle, and what I'm doing is I've got that 45-degree line along one side of my rectangle. I'm sliding this ruler in until the tip comes off the edge of my rectangle here. That's my guide. So this point and along the bottom of my block, if I cut this away, I have that piece. I'm going to do it again. On this piece, again, I need to take away that 45-degree. I need to take away this piece here. It needs to be under my ruler. I'm going to rotate that so that it's will be under my ruler. So I kept my finger on it while I rotated it. The 45-degree line along the bottom of my rectangle. It needs to come so that it comes right through that corner, that intersection there. Cut it away, and voila, I have the pieces for that side. Okay, now that you have your pieces cut, remember you left that strip together, both layers. So when you open them up, they're then reversed, right? One side and it's opposite. Now if I go over and I seal this rectangle, it fits right in there. Now, for piecing this, what you do is one at a time, flip your triangle on. Now, the point I need to point out to you is that you need to position these. You're going to have triangles that hang off both ends. And so what you need to do is look at this edge, a 1/4 inch from this edge to that V where the fabrics kind of overlap and make an intersection. That's where you need to start and stitch to the opposite end. Okay, I'm going to set my machine for a 1/4 inch seam. Make sure it's set properly. I'm using a little bit of a spider here to run off one fabric and onto another so it doesn't chew up the tip of my triangle. And we're going to go down the side, get that perfect 1/4 inch seam. You can see I went right in where those two fabrics intersect, and again where the two fabrics come together there. Now you're going to press your seams, and you can press your seams toward the darker side, so towards the batik. Set that seam first, get it warm, and then gently open it up. You don't want to stretch on it because you have bias edges here, so be very, very gentle. With batik, it's really nice because it's so crisp. It gets a good press right away. Okay, that's one side. Now what we need to do is position this one the same way, thinking about that 1/4 inch seam off the end here. So we'll take it to the machine. Put my little spider piece under there so I can run right onto that fabric without it, again, pulling down against my triangle there. Watch your seams as you approach the one you pressed already, making sure it stays flat. Take my little spider away. I'm going to come in and I would press that seam then open. And you'll create the pieces that go on each side. The same process is used for the pieces on this side. You'll see that these are floating, they're longer. So remember, we were cutting those right sides together, or right sides out, whichever, so that we would have mirror image. We'd open those up, place it in the center, and you get the same thing. You're going to be putting on one side and then the other. Kind of like in a traditional flying goose unit, except this one's got longer wings. I guess you'd have to think about it that way. So that piece would go there. We'll position all of our pieces so you just kind of see they're creating rows when the construction of this one. Whoops. Get it in the right position. This way. And then we have the long pieces that go at the bottom here. So you would create a row along the top, a center row, and a bottom, and join those to get your blocks. Now, once you created all the blocks in your quilt, you're going to be putting them on point. Remember I talked about them kind of sitting on their, tilted on one end. And if you look at them, because they're sitting on point, it looks like this. The center looks like more like a diamond than it does a square at this point. Now, the construction of putting together a quilt on point is a little bit different. You are going to be placing blocks like this, except that there's a little space in between them. So I'm going to lay these pieces out. And you'll notice that as I lay those out, I'm leaving spaces because there's what looks like almost like invisible sashing at this point, and there's pieces that need to go in here, large triangles. So follow your instructions. What you're going to be doing is cutting large squares of fabric. You're going to cut diagonal in both directions, which will then yield pieces that look like this. Those will be your setting pieces for the top and the bottom borders of your quilt. And double check myself here. This one slides in, and then this one's going to be in a column. It's going to slide out a bit. And this one's going to be along the side here. You're also going to have spacers. You need to fill this space, so you're going to have a, you have an inner border. Let me think here. We got to get pieces here. I've got to slide these down. Forgot there's a spacer bar here. Got in my stash of pieces. because they want that floating. Want some space between the blocks so you get to enjoy all those batik fabrics. Then there's one other piece that goes up here in the corner, and that comes from a square of fabric that is cut on the diagonal, and I'm just going to fold it here so we can slide it in. Whenever you're cutting setting pieces, we're always looking at trying to keep straight of grain around the outside of your quilt. So that's why we cut the pieces in the directions that we do. So this would be joined here. And then you're going to have more sashing bars like this of white that are longer that are going to fill in around the quilt. And you've got this wonderful version of batiks that you can have fun that just is too charming. If you'd like to make or see more of our videos, please visit our website. Thanks for joining me today.